Myanmar erupted into chaos as the military junta staged an insurrection. The media has moved on, but the resistance continues. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Back in February, Myanmar, also called Burma, fell to a military coup. Protests erupted throughout the country, and they were met with harsh resistance. But the news cycle moved on to other stories, like the protests in Cuba. Hey, I wonder whatever happened there. This kind of memory holing of major events is a huge boon for dictators. 4.2 billion people live under authoritarian regimes, and these dictators are teaming up to reshape the world in their image at a time when democracies are more and more fractured. So I caught up with Burmese activist Wai Hnin at the Oslo Freedom Forum in Miami to find out what the latest in Myanmar is and what role China is playing in the chaos. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So the Chinese Communist Party has had an interest in Burma for a long time. What has changed since the military takeover?
I would say very little has changed. Chinese have no interest in human rights or supporting in, democracy movement or human rights at all. So we have seen a lot of people, really angry about China actively supporting the military by supplying weapons, and also, let's face it, China interest in Burma is the money economy. Investment. They are getting the natural resources from my country with a very cheap discount. So they are very happy.
And this was before and after the military takeover. It's just been an ongoing thing.
I mean, China is, they have a lot of projects inside the country. And they have pipeline, and they are really interested in what kind of natural resources they can get out of our country. So it doesn't matter who's the government, as long as they have this cheap access to our natural resources, they are fine. But the problem, we try to remind China is that if my country is not stable, they can't have any, stable or safe investment in the country, because people are saying, if China continue to support military, they're going to blow up the Chinese pipeline. So, it's their interest to support democracy and human rights movement in my country.
I somehow can't imagine that happening.
I don't think so either, but we, as a human rights activist, I think we just have to keep pushing and banging our head against the wall until something happens. And we've seen that, a lot of the time with the UN Secretary Council, everything. We try to propose, China is the roadblock, Russia is the roadblock, so we are trying to find other ways to push the other country to do something about Burma, but because sometimes we find that other powerful countries hide behind China as well. They're like, we can't do anything because if we do anything at the UNSC, China will veto it, Russia will veto it, so we won't do it. But at least we say, you can propose this. Let's see where it goes, rather than saying it's not going to happen.
I think that's something people kind of miss, how these large authoritarian regimes like Russia, like China, it's like this other axis that's supporting authoritarian regimes around the world. It makes it very difficult for people like you to have a voice in international institutions like the UN. Is there any way around that kind of built-in flaw?
I think, from this Oslo Freedom Forum, I learned that solidarity is very important. And what we are lacking is solidarity between activists from all around the world. And I think this type of forum brings people together. Because all the dictatorship in the world, they have that solidarity. They have that kind of friendly, chummy, relationship going on.
Strong men stick together.
Exactly. So we need that sort of, and I found that there are so many similarities in our struggle, and China has become a big problem for many countries as well. So I think, there might be ways for us to work together and push something together.
It seems like China is exporting its tactics to these other countries.
So they are, all these surveillance technology and all these sort of, oppression against people and stuff. I mean, they learn from each other, don't they? So we know that China supply surveillance technology to Burmese military, but the problem is we don't know how big the team the Burmese military have and what kind of technology they are actually getting from China. And it's actually very dangerous for us because we already have 7,000 people in jail. And if they can actually use these technology against our people very well, I think most people will be locked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not just the arms sales that China is making, it's also this technology that's a real threat.
Yes.
Now, I know during the protests earlier this year, some Burmese protesters felt that China had some kind of hand in the military junta's takeover. Why do you think they felt that way?
In my country, I think sometimes it's frustrating because there are a lot of rumors. And social media, there is a good and bad side of social media, and social media really don't help with fake news and rumors. So someone started that, this person or this soldier looks like Chinese. But we have a lot of Chinese descent, people in the country as well. So someone started the rumor, and all of a sudden it's like, this is China supplying their soldiers and stuff, but everything is a fake news. It's just paranoia and also a lot of insecurities, during the protests coming out. So unfortunately, it was a fake news that didn't help people.
So what do you think the military junta's interest in China is?
Again, money. They are getting first of all, they are having their dictatorship buddies. Relationship going on, and also they want China to invest in the country so they can, they keep having all these money and supply for them, and they can keep ruling the country. So that's why when we are calling for, military companies or, like sanctions on military companies and stuff, but it's very difficult to call China to stop investing in the country or working with the military. It's impossible.
Well, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, how China is a roadblock in international calls for reform. Like, what good is, a weapons embargo on Burma? Like, don't sell weapons to the Burmese military junta when China will just do it anyways.
Well, it doesn't really mean that other countries shouldn't do it, like I was saying before. There are around 150 countries, I think, that don't have arms embargo on Burma. And if they do that, then if they stop selling arms to Burma, then, they have less weapons. I mean, Burmese military don't need more weapons for sure. And again, like I was saying before, a lot of the countries say, we can't have global arms embargo imposed by the UN Security Council because China and Russia will veto it. But countries can do it unilaterally. South Korea has done it, Japan has done it. So if they impose arms embargo unilaterally, they can go behind China and they can make it happen. But,
And one thing I think that is very interesting that I learned through the Oslo Freedom Forum is that, the military junta, its leaders, they're very wealthy individuals. And this is something where this is another way that Chinese business interests could really play a really negative role, like making these people incredibly wealthy.
My country is very rich. My country is very wealthy with natural resources. We have jams, jade, timber, everything. But for many years, we live in poverty because all these natural resources, is being manipulated and owned by the Burmese military. And all the foot soldiers are very poor. They don't even have a good pair of shoes to wear when they go out and fight ethnic people. But top of the generals like Wai Hnin and other generals, they have very, designer shoes, designer bag and everything like that. So they don't want to give up this power. And we are in this situation because Wai Hnin doesn't want to give up his power, doesn't want to give up his wealth, but because if he retires, there is a chance that he might have to go to the, International Criminal Court for genocide. So he doesn't want to risk that. So we are in this mess 8 months on because of his, stupid ambition.
So For people watching, what do you think they can do to raise awareness, get the international community to do something?
Raise awareness is the main, thing to start, because it's been 8 months on and we don't really see many news about Burma anymore. Protest is continuing every day and people are dying every day, but we don't really see any of those on news anymore. So raising awareness and telling people that these things are still happening, people are still fighting, is important. And again, is to meet up with your, I don't know how it works in the US system, meet with your congressman or, approach them and talk about Burma. And there are so many things they can do and push them, because you have the power, you have the voice. And I live in the UK, we can go and meet our MPs and we can push them. That's the freedom that we have in this, Western democratic world. So please use those. And push your government to do something, because they can actually make a change.
Yeah. And I think what you said is really key. People have to remember this is going on. Like it made me think of the protests in Cuba, another country where China is playing a big role. Everyone was talking about that, and then the news cycle moves on to something else, and people kind of forget about it.
Yes.
The situation in Burma, it hasn't stopped.
Yes.
So people need to remember.
Yeah, sometimes people say, we haven't seen it on BBC or any news anymore. How are things? Or do you have the military dictatorship now? So I have to remind them, no, they haven't won yet, because people are still fighting and resisting. So people are still struggling. Just because there's no news about it anymore doesn't mean we're not, struggling or we're not fighting for our rights. So please remember that.
Well, I'm glad you're still out there raising that awareness.
Thank you very much.
So for anyone watching who would like to follow you and know more about what you're doing, where can they go?
So I work for an organization called Burma Campaign UK. So we have a lot of campaigns going on about arms embargo and sanctions. So there are a lot of papers as well if you want to read. And I'm on Twitter as Miss WHPT. So you can follow me as well. So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And once again, a big thank you to the Oslo Freedom Forum for bringing activists from around the world together to tell their story. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.